So let's talk about a concept that I'm sure many of you are already acquainted with, especially if you're a fan of shonen battle manga, because this happens a lot in shonen battle manga. It's whenever the author decides to give their characters a numerical designation, and whenever they square off against another character with a numerical designation, those numbers are supposed to tell us exactly how the battle is supposed to go. The most obvious way this works is in Dragon Ball with the power level concept. It's over 8,000! That's okay, because I have 18,000. See, my numbers are bigger than his, so therefore I'm going to obviously win. At first glance, you might think this is just the author's way of literally showing battle power in a way that we'll understand it, right? Well, Vegeta has a higher power level than Goku, so obviously he's going to win, right? No. Instead, a lot of ways this is used, and it's not just in Dragon Ball. In Seven Deadly Sins, it's used this way as well. It's usually a way of literally showing why battle power and ability cannot be measured by mere numbers. So how many times in Dragon Ball has Goku gone up against somebody that, oh man, you can't beat him, his power level's way too huge. But then Goku ends up winning in some way. That's his number. Oh, you beat him? You broke through your limits, Goku. You did something incredible. You showed them why numbers don't matter. Now, this happens a lot, and it does in One Piece as well, except the twist is in One Piece we have a system that doesn't just account for battle power, rather it accounts for your infamy as an outlaw, and exactly how much of a threat you pose against the central power in One Piece, which is the world government. Battle power is a factor when deciding somebody's bounty, and by the way, if you're curious, it's 700 million berries. It's not accurate. I bought these things off the internet, so they just threw random numbers on the bounties, and we know, given from what we know of Luffy's current bounty and the bounties of certain Yonko commanders, this number is rather laughable. Maybe this was his starting bounty. We'll get from that point onward. And if you're curious about Whitebeard, they literally just put a question mark at the front of all those zeros, so yeah. But we're going to be talking about bounties today. However, I should throw in a little bit of a disclaimer. While I am going to use like various characters' bounties as examples, like, you know, Frankie's bounty is 94 million, this is not going to be a video where I just go through like who has what bounty. There's the wiki for that. I saw a lot of other YouTube videos that you could go to for that. So there's a lot of other places you can go to find out, you know, who has what bounty. But I thought it would be a good idea to look into exactly how these numbers are reached. Did you ever wonder that? Like, there must be a sort of committee for the Marines that like sit down in a conference room like once a week or something, and they're like, all right, men, well, here's the briefing on the new pirates that are up and out in the world right now. Where do you think we should put their starting bounties? And then moving on to new business, here are the pirates that have committed some heinous acts since the last time we met. So we maybe got to think about raising their bounties. I've always been a big fan of world building. I've always been a really big fan of every little aspect that goes into what makes One Piece a great manga. So I decided to sit myself down and think about, like, okay, if I was a member of the Marines, if I was part of this select group that sits around a table and decides on which, you know, which character gets which bounty, how exactly would I do it? And I came up with basically 3 different criteria that are broken up into a variety of different subcategories, but 3 main criteria on why you would give someone the bounty that they have, okay? So, the first one we're going to go to is the status of a character, and then we're going to move on to the actions that that character has committed, and then finally, the power of that character, roughly. This isn't like Dragon Ball exactly, where we can just give Luffy a power level, so to speak, so we'll get to that in a second. It is an aspect of this. You can't just overlook the fact whenever somebody has like a mythical zone or something when classifying their bounty. That has to be a factor, if they know hockey or if they don't, if they have Conqueror's hockey. You know, so we'll get to power levels, so to speak, near the end. But for right now, let's talk about, I think, the most important factor when deciding someone's bounty, and that is their status. Now, this can be broken up into a bunch of different things. For one thing, what exactly are they? Because there's a bunch of different outlaws in One Piece. You could be a pirate, you could be a bandit, you could be a revolutionary. Now, all of these kind of people are the bad guys in the world government's eyes. They're all breaking the law, but they are very different if you know the series. So when you decide to become a pirate, that's when you are actively sailing around the ocean, flying the Jolly Roger, making trouble for the Marines, attacking the Marines. You know, that's a lot of berries that are coming out of the world government's budget. You know, when a pirate decides to launch a full-scale attack against a Marine ship, and then that thing gets sunk, you know, it comes right out of the Tenryubito's pockets, okay? So they care about that. Also, pirates have the whole sacking, burning, murdering kind of thing going on whenever they land in an island, so, you know, a lot more property damage and strife coming from that. Also, you get to the point where pirates are extremely powerful, to the point where they can even rule their own country, like with Big Mom or the other Yonkos. So, yeah, being a pirate is kind of like a really big deal in One Piece if you're good at it. Also, what's your status on the crew? Are you the captain? Are you the first mate? Are you somebody of worth? Or are you just like a lowly cabin boy? Or just a low-ranking soldier of the crew? Are you one of the first people they send into battle as like the vanguard? Like, yeah, you guys can go and fight with swords for a little while, just chew out the fat, and then we, the strong arms of the crew, that's when we'll make our appearance after you've cleared out the riffraff. You've basically taken each other out. That's when we'll make the appearance. Because, let's, for example, take a look at Alvida, who was a pirate from the East Blue, and even by East Blue standards had a very low bounty. Alvida only had a 5 million berry bounty, and she, of course, was the captain of her own crew. So do you think these three shiver me timbers, you know, dipshits would have had a bounty on her crew? I highly think that they didn't. The ones that, like, first met Luffy when he jumped out of the barrel and Kobe was there, pretty sure they were just complete underlings. The government does not care about them. The government barely cared about Alvida, really, there. Is it Alvida or Alvida? I don't know. Doesn't really matter, because if it did matter, they would have given her a higher bounty. Oh, sick burn, Alvida Vida! I don't care. But on the opposite end of that spectrum, if you're still a low-ranking soldier, but you're working for, let's say, Whitebeard's crew, or Shanks, or Kaido, or any of the Yonko for that matter, yeah, you might be a low-ranking soldier, but you answer to a Yonko, so you might get a bounty there just because of your status as being part of a Yonko's crew. Remember that one dude, Rockstar? He was a pirate that joined up with the Red Hair crew, and from the way that Shanks was talking about him, it seemed like he was a new recruit, like he had just joined up, and he already had a bounty of like 94 million. Now, at that point in the series, 94 million, that's nothing to sneeze at. That was already at the point where we knew Luffy's second bounty was 100 million, so Luffy still had a higher bounty than this guy, but still, the fact that he was just like a low-ranking new member of the Red Hair pirate crew, and he had a bounty that high, you know, that kind of speaks for it there. So that's really important, the status of the crew. Also, connections, because let's say you are just a low-ranking member for Whitebeard's crew, the Marines would definitely value you more than just a random riffraff member of Alvida's crew, because if they can get their hands on you, if they can capture you, they can maybe interrogate information regarding a Yonko out of you. Like, for example, imagine if a random member of the Big Mom pirates got captured and got brought before the Marines. You know, they'd be like, how do we get into Totland? You know, what's the secret route on how to get to Whole Cake Island? What's Big Mom's base of operations look like? That kind of information is extraordinarily valuable. So that's the first things I think they're going to look at, exactly who you are, where you're at in the world. That's also very important. Are you just a pirate in the East Blue? Because the East Blue is, like, referred to as one of the weakest oceans in the world, the weakest ocean, I guess I should say. I'm assuming the North Blue is the one that's supposed to be considered the strongest, because so many strong pirates have come from the North Blue. Law, Doflamingo, the German Double Six originated from the North, so I'm assuming the North is where, like, a really strong, you know, pirates come from, right? It's a very rough kind of seas there. The West Blue had those 5 mafia families, one of which Beige was part of, so they're gonna look at that, where you came from, familial ties that you have. Like, for instance, do you think Luffy's bounty would not be as high if it wasn't for the fact that his dad was the leader of the Revolutionary Army? I mean, I know Luffy doesn't have connections with his dad, he's not like talking to him, really. He's never even met him. Well, maybe, you know, when Luffy was like a little baby, maybe Dragon hung around him for a little bit, but then after that, something happened and he got put up for adoption, or Garp took him away, or whatever. But yeah, Luffy doesn't have connections with his dad, but he is still the son of the leader of the revolutionaries. All right, the Marines just aren't going to take that into consideration when they're, you know, deciding, like, he is the son of a leader of the Revolutionary Army, who, by the way, are trying to take down the Tenryubito. Nah, I don't see that as a reason why we should raise his bounty at all. Because remember, after the events of Marineford, you know, Luffy had the 300 million berry bounty, then the time skip happened, and when we got back from the time skip, Luffy's bounty had jumped up to 400 million, but we're not exactly sure the reason why, because he did so much in that intermediate. Like, he punched a freaking world noble's lights out, he participated in the breakout of Impel Down, he participated in the War of the Best, he, you know, did all of these things that basically made him like, oh, he's attacking the admirals head on, or whatever, and then, of course, the cherry on the freaking icing is that the cherry on the icing of the cake is that he's the son of Dragon. So, yeah, I think one of those or all of those contributed to raising his bounty another 100 million there. Kind of seems low to me when you consider all of the stuff he did there in quick succession, but whatever. So, yeah, that's all the stuff they're going to look at right away. Location, position on the crew, affiliation, if you're tied to a Yonko, what your familial status is like, if you have any secrets or hot news that they want to know, like Doflamingo, who is an ex-Tenryubito, so to speak, and he's got some hot skitty on what's going on upstairs in Marijois, so they don't want that getting out. So, yeah, all of that stuff I think is going to be the first thing they're going to look at. Now, as for those two other groups I mentioned, Bandits and Revolutionaries, I think it would make sense that their bounties, that their starting bounties might be a bit higher. Because, yeah, pirates are a problem because they're just going out there in the world and just causing ruckus, doing whatever they basically want to do, like just saying, screw you, world government, I want to do whatever I choose to do, so I'm gonna land in this town, steal what I need, and then keep on going, and you try to stop me, I'm gonna attack your battleships. That's what a pirate does. But a revolutionary, that's a little bit more of a focused objective, where they rally under the flag of Dragon. It's literally a dragon flag, and then they're going to go and attack the world government directly, or the Tenryubito directly. Alright, that's one of the reasons why I thought Sabo's bounty, because Sabo is supposed to be the second in command of the entire Revolutionary Army, is, you know, 602 million, which I'm like, well, it's not low by any means, but, you know, Cracker's bounty was higher, Smoothie's bounty was higher, Jack, Katakuri's, Luffy's bounty is almost 1 billion berries higher than Sabo's now. You know, it doesn't seem right, you know? I made a whole video on that, Sabo's bounties, so maybe go check that out, talking about the various reasons why it might be so low. There's some of you out there that don't think it's low. You think that that's a perfect thing for him, but because they say that Dragon is supposed to be the most wanted man in the world. Now, we don't know that if it's literal, because we've never seen a wanted poster for Dragon, but they came out and said it, most wanted man in the world. So I'm just gonna make a guess and assume that he has the highest bounty in the world, because I think that's a fair thing to say. Like, for example, we know the highest bounty right now in One Piece is, of course, Frankie's bounty. Yeah, I mean, he's a robot, for God's sake. Look at him. No, but of course, the highest bounty is Luffy's. He's got 1.5 billion berries on his head, for his head. So, I would assume Dragons would have to be higher than that, you know? And then, of course, we still haven't gotten to the whole conundrum of how a Yonko's bounty works. You know, some people assume it's not even a number at that point. It's just like, name your price. You know, that's all it's gonna be at that point, which would be fair, you'd figure. But yeah, for a revolutionary, though, they're united under, you know, Dragon, and Dragon's a really smart dude, and they're very methodical with how they work with stuff. I'm sure location would still play a factor here, because the Revolutionary Army is not, like, they do have a central hub, but they're scattered all throughout the world. In fact, I could see this as a major problem for Dragon's forces, that, you know, they're trying to raise this counter army up to face off against the world government, but they're scattered, and getting everybody together in one place would be kind of difficult, and the world government has their reach throughout the entire world. That's the point. So it's like, man, we need to send some revolutionaries over there to liberate that island. Oh, but we also have to send revolutionaries over there to liberate that island. So it's very busy, and their forces aren't that large compared to like the Marines or the pirates or anything. But they're still a lot more dangerous because they're trying to this very specific thing to take down the Tenryubito. So, yeah, I would assume that they would get higher starting bounties, but as we've seen with Sabo, it's not like that the higher ranking members of the Revolutionary Army have some of the highest bounties in the series, because Sabo doesn't, so. And as for the bandits, or the outlaws, or the brigands, or the highwaymen, however you want to say that, they're basically like pirates, but lamer. I can imagine the outlaws of the One Piece world, the ones that are landlubbers, decided, like, I'm not going out to sea, the freaking Marines are out there. Because most of the Marines consist of a naval unit, battleships, patrolling and attacking pirate ships and anybody that would try to, raise the Jolly Roger. So I can imagine there's a lot of people that, like, don't want to play by the rules, but at the same time, they're like, well, we can't form a crew and go out to sea because that's way more riskier. So yeah, I can imagine like a band of outlaws would be like, we're not gonna listen to anybody's laws. Yeah, we're gonna take what we want. Yeah, we're gonna do what we want. Yeah, let's go out to sea. Oh, okay. Whoa. Easy there, buddy. Easy. Does any of you guys have navigation skills? No? All right, how about a way to, avoid the Marines? How do you feel comfortable going into sea combat with a bunch of Marine battleships? Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. What about scurvy? Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I think we're all just gonna stay here, but in the confines of this island, we're gonna do what we want! So then you have, like, the mountain bandits that were led by Higuma in the very first chapter of One Piece, which, fun fact, Higuma was the first ever character in One Piece stated to have a bounty. So, good job there, buddy. Actually, I think Higuma's bounty was still higher than Alvaida's. I think it was like 8 million or something. Then again, later on, we have Curly Dadan, who was the one that, was the boss of the mountain bandits of Mount Kolbo. I'm kind of wondering, like, did Higuma and Dadan, was like Higuma working under her, or was Higuma the boss, but then he got eaten by a giant sea monster, and then Dadan took over? Or were they like separate, like, Higuma, you have that side of the mountain and I have this side of the mountain. And then Higuma died and it's like, all right, I'm king of the mountain now. Queen of the mountain, whatever, Dadan, you're awesome. But, yeah, that's what they were, okay? And they still get bounties, Higuma had one, and maybe even Dadan had one. But I think at that point, the government's not going to care about you as much because, yeah, you might be causing trouble for the locals, but you're not really that much of a threat because you're not, on the sea. You're not really attacking a bunch of islands. You're just kind of staying and causing trouble on one. So, overall, I mean, if you decide, like, if Dadan decided to rally all her mountain bandits together and then set out to sea as the Curly Pirates or whatever, then I could see the government, all right, if she did have a bounty already, like, let's say Dadan has a bounty of 10 million. All right, we don't know this, but let's just give her 10 million. I think that's fair for her. It's higher than Alvaida, and it's higher than Higuma. Dadan ranks higher than Higuma, come on. So, let's just give her 10 million berries. Yeah, the mountain bandits on Mount Kolbo, they're causing problems for the Goa Kingdom or whatever, but they're mostly just staying in that one little backwoods section of the East Blue. Nobody really cares about them. But if they decide to sail out to sea, it's like, okay, now you're causing trouble in a bunch of other places. Let's raise your bounty up to 15 million. Let's get you up to buggy level. And I think that's a fair estimate. You know what I mean? Let's bring you up to buggy level. But yeah, I think really though, the world government only cares about bandits if you're like, giving a bounty if you're the leader. So it's like, oh yeah, like at the meeting with all the Marines, like we gotta talk about who's getting these bounties. Oh yeah, there's a bunch of mountain bandits on Dawn Island, and they're like, are they causing trouble? I'm like, yeah, they're causing a little bit of trouble. They're like sacking a few villages and just stealing food, pretty basic stuff. How long have they been doing it? They've been doing it for a little while. They got a force of about 4 or 5 dozen men holed up in a mountain fortress. They're just kind of really annoying. Okay, well, Here's a picture of their leader. Oh, 10 million right away. 10 million. Yeah, let's issue him that. Okay. But only to the leader. We don't really care about the riffraff. What's up with that? Why is he wearing a chicken thing on his head? Okay, whatever. Let's just give that lady with the orange hair. She's scary. Let's give her 10 million. But aside from that, we'll not worry about them too much. So I think that's the way that he goes with Mountain Bandits. Except if you're Wicked Dick. If you're Wicked Dick. You know, the Marines took one look at this dude right here, and they were like, oh, you know, slap the highest bounty. What's the highest number we have? I'm like, well, what do you mean, like the highest bounty? No, the highest number. I'm like, I think that's a Googleplex. Give him a Googleplex +1. You know, that man is a true monster that will devour the earth unless he is stopped. So, yeah, unless you're Wicked Dick, you know, they don't really probably care about Mountain Bandits too much. Going along with that line, though, not necessarily Mountain Bandits, but other kind of outlaws, like the Mafia in the West Blue that we talked about. Beige was one of these, the leaders, the fathers of these 5 Mafia families in the West. So I can imagine that Beige had a starting bounty before he even arrived on the Grand Line. He had something to his name at that point, as I'm sure a lot of the other members of the families did as well. But maybe, once again, the government only really cared if you were the head of those Mafia families. Otherwise, they didn't really care. So, yeah, when you start getting into the Grand Line and you're a pirate there, that's where, like, the action is. That's like, okay, welcome to Big Boy Town, all right? You were a pirate in the East Blue, that's really cute. You're a pirate on the Grand Line, or even more so, you're a pirate in the New World. That kind of earns merit just out of the gate. You know what I mean, right? So, yeah. Now, moving on to the actions that you commit. I think this is another really big factor, okay? So, the battles with the Marines that you've had, and the battles with other pirates you've gotten into, were you directly or indirectly involved in these events? Or did you issue a direct attack on the world government? Those, I think, would be the kind of questions that you would have to ask yourself about them in this situation. So it's like, oh man, this pirate crew participated in the War of the Best, and they managed to take out this many Marines and stuff, and they managed to get away. I'm like, okay, well, I think we should raise their bounties a bit. Like, I'm fairly certain all of Whitebeard's allies, like Thunder McGuy and that Caterpillar dude and Whitey Bay. I need to make a video about Whitey Bay, damn straight. And all the Walrus dude, that's a mink. Yeah, I'm sure their bounties all got raised when they initially, you know, after the War of the Best, just because they were participants in that as well. Did you fight against a warlord? Did you fight against a Yonko? Like, remember what Kid did? Eustace Kid and Killer. They attacked one of Big Mom's fleets, and they managed to sink a bunch of her ships. I'm sure their bounties might have went up from that. What about Arouge? Arouge took out Snack. I'm sure if the Marines got wind of that, like, whoa, he took out a Yonko commander. I think we should raise his bounty a bit. Speaking of like that at the moment, what about Carrot? Because not just Carrot in particular, but the Minks. The Minks are not allied with the world government. They have their own little island, and they're just kind of traveling around, but nevertheless, they're extremely dangerous. They have the Electro. They have the ability to go into this Sulong monster moon form. You know, I think that warrants a bounty, but they don't. So maybe it's like the world government's like, unless the Minks leave their land and decide to go out into the world, that's when we'll issue them a bounty. We won't just like issue the Minks a bounty, you know, because they're on their elephant and they're not really causing anybody any problems. But they are really strong once they do go out there in the world. Just the fact that all of them can harness Electro alone is a really dangerous thing. So yeah, those are the actions that you committed. That's a big one. And then finally, let's talk about the power level, so to speak. So when we're talking about power level in this context, we're talking about, does this person know hockey? What kind of hockey? A little bit of observation, a little bit of armament, nothing really that expert level. I'm like, okay. Oh, they're the masters of armament hockey. There's this outlaw that's living out in the middle of the East, and they don't really have a lot of influence. They're not really doing a lot of stuff. They're not pirates. They're just outlaws, but it's purported that their leader has the strongest armament hockey you've ever seen. So it's like, all right. They're outlaws, but they're not really doing much in the world. But yeah, I think we'll issue them a bounty for that. Do they have a devil fruit? What kind of devil fruit? Is it a Logia? Because you're probably going to get a boost in numbers just because it's a Logia. Is it a mythical zone? Is it an ancient zone? Something really powerful like that. Look at Eneru. Oda even came out and said in an SBS that if Eneru ever came down from the sky to become like a pirate on the blue sea? How successful would he be? And Oda said like, oh man, he could have a bounty as high as 500 million. But he does also say that, like, Eneru, he would not be the ruler of the Blue Sea. He would not control it. There's so many other heavy hitters down there. He was sort of like a big fish in a small pond kind of thing. But still, at that time when we found out about this, that SBS, this was way before the time skip. 500 million berries, that was a really high number. I think that might have been the highest number ever talked about at that point. You know, now it's not that big of a deal because Luffy's bounty was 500 million. We saw Jack and Smoothie and Cracker and Katakuri, and now Luffy's bounty is higher than that. Sabo's bounty is higher than that. Just it goes to show. But yeah, if Eneru came down and tried to be a pirate, keep in mind, he specified, I'm going to try to be a pirate, not like Eneru's. Eneru's the kind of guy that's never happy with just like, I'm going to sit on this one island and just not bother anybody else. You know, he's the one that's always like, I'm going to go to Fairy Verth. I'm going to go to these other land. Like, he wiped out his homeland and then went to Skypiea and then made them build a entire arc so he could go to the moon. So Eneru definitely would not be happy with just like a little slither of land. He would definitely want to go out to sea and try to conquer all of the Grand Line or whatever. And so if he would be a pirate, they would consider like, all right, he's a pirate and he's from Sky Island and he's got a Logia and he has really good observation hockey that's combined with his Logia to make even better observation. Yeah, this guy might be a threat. 500 million, I think that's fair. Something along that line. But yeah, in terms of like actual fighting ability though, see, that's something that's a little bit more rough to gauge. You really have to see them like, you know, one-on-one, like actually see them how they're gonna fight in order to really classify that. But just out of the gate, like once again, we're in that conference room, that meeting room, that's the questions they're gonna ask is, how good is their hockey? What kind of devil fruit do they have? What type is it? I mean, how proficient are they at using it? Is it awakened? Those are the questions they're going to ask about power level there. And if there is something else, like with Jinbei, I'm sure when they were discussing what bounty Jinbei was going to get, you know, they were like, well, he's a fishman, so he's already 10 times stronger than your base human, doesn't have a devil fruit, but he's got hockey, and he also knows fishman karate, which is a very unique fighting style that not just anybody can learn. It's a very unique thing to just the fishman culture, right? Humans can learn it. We know this from Koala, but it's not something like the Marines are gonna learn. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, okay, he has this unique fighting style. Let's like make it, like, I could see them being like, well, let's make his bounty 220 million. It's like, he's got that fishman karate, though. It's like, oh, all right, we better bump it up to 250 then. Now, some of the bounties are a little weird. Like, I think Ace's one was like 550 million, and then there was Bobbin's, which was really weird. It ended, like, he was like the only one that ended with like the last 3 digits being like 100 or like 500 or something. It was very strange for Bobbin. It was like 100,500,000 or something like that. But that kind of lets me think that like the Marines have like a point value system assigned to it. Like, okay, if they have a zone devil fruit, then we give them this many points automatically. If they know Conqueror's Hockey, we give them this many. If they know Observation, we give them this many. If they have an Awakened Devil Fruit, we give them this many. But then beyond that basic system of like set numbers that are fixed, I also think there's a big debate section where like, okay, so on top of all that though, what is like the bigger picture here? Because then we have poor Chopper. We have poor Chopper here, who is obviously just a joke. Like I did a video about like currency in One Piece, like the berry currency, and we went over Chopper's bounty. It was 50 freaking berries pre-time skip, 100 berries. Like if you translate that out to yen and then dollars, it's like he's literally worth a Hershey bar. Go to your local dollar store and buy like a soda, and that soda is probably worth more than Chopper. So yeah, I can imagine. Okay, Marines are sitting down. Brand New walks out. You know, the guy with the green afro and the glasses slaps his hand against the chalkboard. All of the Straw Hats bounty posters right after Enies lobby. This is right after the Straw Hats declared war against the world government directly. They rescued Robin and everything. And like, the Straw Hat Pirates, ladies and gentlemen. Luffy's been giving us problems up to this point. So has Pirate Hunter Zoro. But I think it's time to give their entire crew some bounties after what they did at Enies lobby. All right, it's like, all right, well, let's give that Black Leg guy 77 million. He's fighting pretty strong. He lit his foot on fire and all that crap. Oh, well, what about the cat burglar? All right, well, let's give her 66 million. She's very stealthy and everything, and plus she's very attractive. She can definitely disarm men by just her rack alone. So let's give her that bounty. And then they get to Chopper. And I think at that point, everybody on the entire, staff was just starting to laugh their ass off. And Brand New's like, now, guys, what do you think about this adorable reindeer? Oh, my God, it's so cute. I thought that was a Tanuki dog. Now, I'm pretty sure it's a reindeer. You might be wrong, though. I don't know. But, isn't he just a precious little guy? What bounty should we give him? Oh, you know what? I think we should give him 50. Oh, 50, you think that's fair? Okay. Because in their eyes, they think Chopper is nothing more than just a pet, like a dog or a cat. You can't get any information out of them. They're not really useful. But, yeah, they're unaware of the fact that zone fruits exist, and Chopper clearly exhibits human tendency. I mean, he doesn't look like, guys, come on. Like, even the image on the bounty poster shows him really excitably, like, eating cotton candy. He looks like a human. He has a human facial features, You probably should consider the fact that he's not just an animal. He's not just a pet, but okay, fine. 50 berries, I think that's fair. Even for a pet, though, that seems low. It's like 35 cents in American, currency if you calculate it out. It's just sad. But I like to think that's what happened. Like, they just started fawning over Chopper, and that's how we ended up getting that shitty bounty. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to go over it with you guys today, because this was something I've been, thinking about and all that stuff. What is exactly the criteria for getting a bounty? But what do you guys think about these 3 different criteria I've laid out for you? Do you agree with them? Do you not? Let me know below what you think. What do you know about other stuff that I might have left out? Like, oh, well, Matt, I like a lot of stuff you said, but I think you're overlooking this aspect about how somebody gets a bounty or something of that nature. So yeah, let me know about that stuff below, guys. And let's do this. If you guys could decide on Chopper's bounty, taking into account everything, taking into account what we know about, that he's able to do Monster Point, and he's a doctor, and he has the zone, and he invented the Rumble Ball, for God's sake, taking into account everything that we know, what would Chopper's adjusted bounty be? That'll be like the question of the video. I'm doing that now, so yeah. Oh, and one big announcement before I go. I almost forgot. We now have new Tekking101 logo t-shirts and hoodies available at the Teespring store. Link is in description below. I know this is something a lot of people have been asking for. There's 2 different variations of the Tekking101 Jolly Roger. You can get both of them available in shirts, both men and women's sizes, as well as hoodies we have now. The t-shirts are $20 and the hoodies are $30. Teespring actually wanted to set them a lot higher. I think the set price for the t-shirts was like $23 and the set price of the hoodies was like $40. So I'm like, I'll just raise it down to $20 and then $30. Just in time for winter. It's getting a little bit more chilly out here, especially in this part of the country. So, yeah, I know this is something that's been requested for a while. So, once again, Teespring link in the description below. Go and get yourself some Tekking101 Jolly Roger merch. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking, signing out.